I became vegetarian when I was 10 years old and vegan when I was 17. So veganism was my whole life basically. And when I moved to New York, I looked for a part-time job at a vegan place, and Terry just opened. So I actually started at Terry as a cashier, became a shift manager, and then the assistant general manager and general manager, and then there was an investment opportunity, so I became a co-owner. I'm not a big foodie myself, so I did not envision myself in the restaurant world, but I do love managing, leading people, organization, all that stuff. So that's how I became the operational manager.
What are some unique challenges that you face as a vegan establishment that maybe some non-vegan establishments aren't facing right now or in the past?
Vegan is not a bad word anymore. That's relatively new. A lot of our one-star reviews on Yelp will be like, "This place is vegan, I didn't know about it." I think still the perception of it. Vegan food is delicious, as we know, everyone's eating it now. The days of tofu and baked kale and stuff change, and there's delicious gourmet food all over. So I think the number one challenge is to break the stigma that vegan food equals granola and stuff, and it's so much more than that. And it is the future. We're seeing it now more than ever.
Yeah, I think for me, because there are so many aspects to this restaurant, hence the PS. And sometimes, I have friends that are in the quote-unquote justice world with me, and they're really passionate about those that are previously incarcerated or women in Haiti, etc. So I bring them to PS Kitchen, and somewhat too infrequently I would get, "Man, this is so cool, what a good idea, but why is it vegan?" That's actually one of the main reasons for, in another way, injustice in the world, for those that have contributed the least to the environmental problem, they're suffering the most. So if you care about justice and human rights, go to Bangladesh, go to Haiti, go to Thailand, you see the environmental impact that it's having on the world by the way that we eat. And I think that's really been actually quite rewarding for me. Obviously when I met Jeff and Tim, they're very passionate about animal rights, and now I got to be on their side. But now Jeff has come with me to Haiti, and we are just kind of keep converting each other in really fun, positive ways.
In terms of the challenges, I actually think the current biggest issue with owning a vegan restaurant is that a lot of us are small business owners. We're not big corporations that will look for a trend to occur first. So they had to barrel through dozens of family savings of restaurants that are vegan that went under, of people who are willing to take the risk. And these are emotional people. These aren't people who are doing this for financial reasons. We're all doing it for an emotional reason. So you run out of business because you didn't do the math or whatever. Luckily, I was a math teacher before this, so it's I could do, that's literally the only reason, and it doesn't matter. But then what happens is, and you have this idea, and I hope this is not inappropriate to say, but you have this idea of cultural appropriation where it's actually only really bad in my mind when the appropriator is now benefiting from what they stole from you. So it's we all open the vegan restaurants and prove the concept after 30 years in New York City it took for them to be oh, that's gonna work. And now a corporation just puts a vegan option and everyone goes there. And they're well, there's 3 of us that aren't vegan and only 1 of you. Let's just go to Chipotle or whatever. Which is great that they have it, but it's the biggest challenge in my opinion because people are just going to Chipotle.
I don't think I have anything to add. I think what you all said was great.
Playing off what you just said, Danny, some establishments have included animal products over the years. They maybe started out as being vegan and they add animal products. How have you been able to kind of withstand that trend?
I would never do that.
Is that a trend?
Yeah, is that a trend?
Really?
For vegan places?
Really? Oh wow. I didn't get into the food business because I was passionate about food. I got into it because I was passionate about animal rights and human rights, and so that's not an option for me.
From just my little anecdotal experience recently, because of this concept, we've been approached by numerous amount of people to be I would love for you to consider doing this and that, here and there. And we just had a really interesting call. I shared that I served in an orphanage in South Africa, and we'd always kind of dreamed one day we can do it there and hire some of these orphans that are now graduating from even culinary school, just trying to help them find jobs. And there's a really high unemployment rate in that part of South Africa, Durban. And the biggest pushback I originally had was the fact that it was vegan, and they didn't think it was gonna work. It was really cool when we invited a pretty successful chef in that region into the conversation. He actually debunked everyone else and said, no, I think this is where the trend is going, and there's no competition. So even though he was not vegan, he was super on board of the fact that this has to stay vegan if they want us to consider it.
With the Beyond Burger and all those products, I don't see any reason to animal flesh to the menu. I think it's a huge step back.
It is. So that's great to hear from everyone. I'm curious, in terms of clientele, what's the split? Are you do you have mostly vegans, half, non-vegans?
Yeah, I think Terry, definitely mostly non-vegan. I'd say even more than 80% non-vegan. So, yeah.
For sure for us too, given that we're around a lot of banks, Broadway, and specifically with the mission, I would say most people I come to have dinner with are not vegan.
Unless your restaurant existed in a neighborhood that for some reason was a higher percentage of vegans, like people go to restaurants because they're like close to them, usually. And so the whatever distribution that neighborhood is what you get, which is like 80%. I'm not supposed to say like
Non-vegan.
harnessed. So yeah, you end up with like 80%.
Yeah, we actually did a poll with NYU, and it was 87% non-vegetarians actually, coditarian.
I was interested in learning a little bit more about Blackbird, which is a brand that's co-owned by yourself and your office work. Cool, Terry. How that's a packaged good. There's a pizzeria, I believe, in Philly, and you have a seitan product that you sell. How did you get into packaged good? Was that first? Did Terry come as a result?
Yeah, so when I moved to New York, my first job was at Candle 79 actually as a manager. And one of the chefs there was a guy named Mark Mebus, who went on to work at Pure Food and Wine and a couple other places. And he opened a pizzeria in Philadelphia. And during one of my friend's baby showers, he brought this seitan, and I was like, oh my God, where'd you get this from? It's like the best stuff I've ever had. He's like, oh, I made it myself. I'm like, you made this yourself? It's crazy. And he's like, I'm like, dude, we gotta sell this. This is insane. And he's like, well, I don't really have the facilities. I'm like, I have a commissary in Long Island City where we do a lot of food prep. I'm like, I have the facilities. Like, teach my guys. We'll make it. We'll go in this 50-50. So that's how it started, and it's been great. We actually have we just launched a frozen pizza line. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but we have Blackbird. So Blackbird Pizzeria in Philadelphia, we teamed up and called it Blackbird. But yeah, we have a pizza line too. And so that's kind of how we got into it. And it's a lot easier than you might think if you want to get into that food business. If I can do it, anyone can do it.
How is that growing versus Terry in terms of sales?
It's good. It's interesting. So B2B, or like business-to-business sales, are a lot easier than retail. You know, we sell the seitan to Champs and a bunch of other places I'm sure you guys are aware of, and that's the way to go. That's the way to go if you want to get into the food business. The retail is great. It's been growing. Our sales are, steadily, slowly going up, and then we've always been profitable, which is great, but they're not enough to it's a slow growth, I'll put it that way. Whereas like Terry was just boom, like gangbusters.
Maybe you can tell us about a time where you thought everything was going to come crumbling down. And it didn't, but you thought it was.
You mean like 2 months ago? This is the realities of being a small business owner. We leveraged our access to credit to grow, which a lot of small businesses do. And our third restaurant just got way over, just to put it in perspective, I think our first restaurant was like $135,000. Our second was $250,000, our third was $400,000. And a lot of it was just problems with the building. I mean, April can attest to PS Kitchen. Yeah, April's got a few stories. This took 3.5 years to build PS Kitchen. It would have been cheaper and faster for us to knock this building down and rebuild it. It was insane. And the problems that we came across were nuts. And luckily, April's got a lot of nice friends that helped out, and April obviously helped out a ton. But we didn't have that option with Terry, so we borrowed to grow, and we couldn't really get ahead of the debt. So we were just kind of spinning our wheels. We were spending a ton of money on interest every year. The debt was slowly growing, but not really going much. Anyway, long story short is we had to make some tough decisions a few months ago. We were actually more profitable as a company with one really busy restaurant, which is on 23rd Street, than we were with the three, because they were sort of being subsidized by that first one. So now we're in a position where we're going to survive, and it's great, but it was really scary for a little while. And that's the problem that you get into when you're a small business owner.
Was that your first location as well?
Yeah, it was our first original location, yeah.
Horror story?
It doesn't have to be a horror story, but,
Every day.
a particularly challenging time when you thought things were going to come falling down.
No, like seriously, all the time. I'm not trying to I am specifically trying to add a joke to every time it's my turn. This is very serious, all the time, except for very recently.
Do you have an example that has a lesson that can be shared?
I had a situation with the interest thing, and then the Park Slope restaurant was doing so well, and it seemed like it had all this money, but it wasn't, because the other restaurant kept taking all of its money. So that was very stressful. You do so much work to get such a large amount of sales, and then actually make all this profit. And the other restaurant's I lost thousands of dollars. or then like something breaks and it's like $7,000. And you're like, oh. I guess specifically in this time where it's kind of complicated mathematically to explain, but there was this time where I started feeling better like 7 weeks ago because I had a loan for like $310,000, right? And they were taking $950 every day out of my bank account. So that was scary every day. But I paid it back.
Yeah, just to kind of share super openly from our hearts, it was really, really hard opening this place. It took 2.5 years. It was February 5th, 2015 that we signed the lease, and we opened August 7th, 2017. Every single month I had to pay like $30,000 to build this place up. And I was 30 years old when I signed a 15-year lease in Times Square. It was probably, absolutely honestly just the scariest thing I've ever done, to be completely genuine and vulnerable. I think sometimes it's hard before having gone into this path. It's easy to kind of go to a restaurant and be like, oh, well, this is not so perfect and this is not so perfect. And I think for those of you not in the restaurant world, it is actually really, really hard to make money. People who put a lot of work into it to make it work, and you're trying to pay your staff well. And that's why, like especially being in our mission, people are like, well, how much are you giving away? And then they're like, well, but how much are you paying your staff? But then wait, so there's always a balance, and we are trying to, since thankfully my business partner and I both don't take a salary, we just volunteer to do this, and then we kind of paid for it. So it's a little bit less stressful, but it is still pretty hard to have a restaurant. But it's only been 1.5 years, and I'm optimistic, so I think it's gonna continue to go this way.
When I became the general manager, I try to do everything myself, because the problem that a lot of new managers face, think you know it all and you think you can do everything the best. So while working on the floor from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. every day, I managed our commissary and the kitchen and the front of the house and do all emails and all of this stuff, and it just started taking mental and physical toll on me, and I knew something's gotta give, and it was either to quit or to figure something out. And I decided that I'm gonna stay and figure it out, and why I decided to change my life, just to start delegating. Saying, you manage the kitchen, you're my assistant general manager, you're in charge of the commissary. Constantly check with people. And throughout the years, I put a big emphasis on leadership, became a certified leadership coach, and really building leaders and working closely with them is amazing. And it's the best tip I can give any restaurateur or any manager out there. People are capable, people do want to do a good job. When you nurture people and work with them closely, they love what they do, and they want to grow with you and become better.
I wasn't originally supposed to be at this talk, but I figured, okay, I'll interview my best friend and creative partner. My name is Young, and I'm an illustrator. I've worked everywhere. I've worked for Fox, I've worked for Johnson & Johnson. I make my own comics, and then in 2013, one of my best friends called me up and said, hey, I'd like to do a humane education comic. And I said to him, give me a lot of money and I'll do it. And that's what we did. I'm going to start with the first question, and it's going to relate to this dog of the hour here. Now, Piggy has a pretty interesting and fascinating story of how he got to New York City. So, Todd, tell us about that.
So, if anyone is wondering why this boy is up here with us, our humane education comic that we made together is called A Piggy's Tale.
Look at this thing, huh? Look at it. We didn't get any slides prepared, so we got to do it like this.
Yeah. So that's the humane education comic that we're selling in our booth right outside here. And it's all based on this three-legged dog, and he inspired everything. So the humane education program is actually part of Darwin Animal Doctors education program. We are a free veterinary training and humane education program that works worldwide. We have a permanent presence in the Galápagos Islands. We are starting the clinic for at least the next 3 months in Koh Tao in Thailand, and we are starting a program in Sumatra after we did a pilot program last year, and the locals have asked us to come back. All of that comes down to this dog.
That's a pretty eccentric name for a dog, so let's start with that.
So, back in 2009, my co-founder and I, we were just traveling with a group of veterinarians on a high-volume spay-neuter campaign to the Dominican Republic. This little guy was carried into the clinic because the locals saw him get hit by a bus a month before we found him. Without any veterinary care in that community, the locals had no choice except to just watch him slowly die over the course of a month until randomly a group of veterinarians.
Way to depress everyone, Todd.
So, turning the story around,
we decided to bring him back with us because the veterinarian said for him to have the best chance to survive, someone's got to bring him back. So he said, we'll do it. And Todd is also the sweetest guy and has a really gullible face. I think he can take anything home. As soon as I told him that I was taking him home, he said, you're such a sucker. Yeah, but I took him home and he made this amazing recovery. We actually named him Piggy because when we found him, he was so sick after getting hit by a bus and getting sicker for a month that he had no hair and he was tiny and he looked like a piglet. So we named him Piggy. Now he's just a big man. Well, tell us about his recovery. Okay, so his recovery, we brought him back to the US and he made this amazing recovery. He grew bigger than any of the vets predicted he would. And also, he did this really interesting thing where, yeah, I'm talking about you, buddy, where whenever we would walk him, like in Central Park or something, he would be walking in a crowd, you know, on the Great Lawn or something, and suddenly he would turn towards like one person. He would single out one person in the crowd. He would just go up to them and then just put one paw on them, and that person would immediately burst out crying. And they would inevitably say something like, oh, I just lost my dog this morning, or I just lost my best friend, or I just had a death in the family. And he would be able to tell that and would say, like, oh, you need to let it out. And this would have this superpower. We decided, number one, he has real life superpowers, so we had a big superhero story about it. But also, it made us realize this is an amazing being, and what were the chances he was going to make it out of where we found him from? And so he inspired us to start a series of free animal training clinics and humane education programs around the world so that people in places like the Galápagos Islands or places in Greenland that don't have any access to humane education or learning how to take care of their animals, or the people don't know that they can aspire to become veterinarians and scientists and improve their economy in a sustainable way that is good for the animals too. So he inspired us to create all of that. We created Darwin Animal Doctors, and we started A Piggy's Tale as a humane education program, and now it's its own thing. It's its own separate comic enterprise, basically, that is now grown into his little comic empire. So one of the things that's also great about this comic, for all of you to know, is that all the proceeds go back to Darwin Animal Doctors. We don't keep any of the money ourselves, although we should. Not only that, though, but the comic and the humane education program has been able to reach communities that a lot of times authors and other illustrators or just artists in general aren't able to reach in schools. You know, they're constantly cutting art programs or constantly doing this or that. So tell us more about the humane education program itself and some of the kids you've been able to reach through Piggy's stories. Some people might say, like, oh, why humane education? Some organizations might just give it lip service. Some people say, like, oh, well, that's nice, but it's not direct action, and it's not like the clinic program that's saving animals directly. So why do you do it, and why, over time, did we make more and more of our time dedicated to humane education over anything else? And the answer is, ultimately, it is the only real thing that will make a difference in the long run for any place that you decide to work in. What we've been finding when we go to a lot of places that are in danger, that have a lot of worldwide attention, like the Galápagos or Sumatra, is that giant NGOs go there and say, this is what we're going to do. And they tell the world, like, support us, give us money, because we're going to turn this place around, and here's our plan to do it. And we watched documentaries about Sumatra and everything, and you notice none of them even interviewed a local. Like, the millions of people who live in these places, no one actually asked them, what are your hopes, your fears, what's getting in your way, like, you know, what is it that you are hoping to accomplish here, and what is the biggest danger happening here? And it turns out that by ignoring them, you're ignoring the only population that can ultimately do anything about it. For instance, in the Galápagos Islands, a lot of people told us things like, don't bother, like, you know, the people here, they don't care about animals, they're awful. Like, we've seen so many dogs and cats that have just been injured because people throw rocks at them, they don't care. But we just decided, well, okay, so we're just gonna bring some like comics and some educational material with some cute animal pictures on them and see what happens. Within like a couple of years, the amount of car accidents and victim animals and the amount of animals that were victimized had to come to clinics dropped dramatically, and in fact, these children started creating humane education programs of their own to teach adults why adults should start taking care of animals and care about their environment.
They plagiarized us a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna sue. They actually took the lead, and so like some of them, like this 15-year-old kid named David, actually went through our humane program, and he said like, I'm starting up a fake dog walking company where all my classmates and I are going to give free dog walks to the adults in the community who have dogs, but then use that to teach them that they should keep their dogs on a leash and start getting baths and stuff like that. And so we said, oh, okay, well, we'll give you leashes that you can use to do that. And he just broke down crying in front of us. And we said, like, what's wrong? And he said, this is the first time I've ever got the impression that anybody outside of these islands cared about anybody here or anything that we wanted to do, and all we wanted to do was save animals. And so that was a huge thing to learn, and it was simply because like a lot of people were steamrolling people, and a lot of the locals felt like nobody was there to help them. And so you have a lot of people in precious ecosystems who feel that governments basically wanted large businesses for tourism money, and they felt that, so the government was there for that, and they felt that the large NGOs were there to use that place to fundraise and, you know, do big projects that they could advertise, and that nobody was actually paying attention to them. So if they wanted self-determination or anything, they just had to do whatever would support them, whether it be work for the tourism industry or work for people who said, you know, I'll give you money if you illegally log, or I'll give you money if you illegally take wildlife out of the ecosystem, give it to me and stuff like that. Giving them the alternatives to say, like, there's stuff out there that you can aspire to. Like, not even to saying, hey, we're going to teach them how to, like, integrate, just giving them the options to say that there's better things to aspire to. In the form of, like, superhero comics. In the form of humane comics, saying, like, hey, a three-legged dog did it. Like, you know, you can have a happy life, too. Inspires them to say, okay, let's try to find a sustainable way to make a future. And in fact, we're starting a new program in Sumatra, which we did a pilot program last year for. And it was pretty remarkable because there's so much attention right now on the looser system in Sumatra. And Leonardo DiCaprio got kicked out of there last year for saying it's a danger, please support these large NGOs that are trying to turn it around. Palm oil plantations are destroying everything. There's these giant organizations and petitions online to stop these things from happening. But when you actually go there, you find, when you talk to the locals, the biggest thing that could stop the spread of palm oil plantations is going to the locals who live in the looser ecosystem and say, the palm oil plantations say that you'll be really rich if you let them use your land to make palm oil. It's not true. Don't believe them. Here's something better you can do. And that alone will do so much more to stop the spread of palm oil than a lot of these enormous like petition and worldwide campaigns stop things from happening there. Yes, people need to stop like eating palm oil products, etc. But also, like, turns out that a lot of these palm oil plantations can't do nearly as much of the spreading as they do unless they can get local villages and stuff to give up their land and sell their land to them. And so, like, it's learning that would really teach you where the real solutions are going to come from. They've been there all along with the locals, and you just need to give them something to believe in.
That's a pretty long answer, but I want to actually take it back just a little bit, because speaking of humane education, you also have been able to reach a lot of disadvantaged kids here in the U.S. Kids with disabilities, kids who might not just have financial access. So tell us some more of those stories that I think probably hit a little closer to home.
Oh yeah,
We'll get back to Sumatra later. I know it's a big project, but we'll get back later.
Yeah, we got like at least 5 more minutes to talk about Sumatra.
Actually, I don't know. Wait a minute. I gotta check the time. Yeah, I got plenty of time. It's fine.
Yeah, we can cover Sumatra. Yeah, we'll cover Thailand too. We'll just sneak that in there again. But anyway, so
We'll fix all the world's problems. Yes, and that's fine.
with this dog. Anyway, in the U.S., we actually are blessed by, we have a lot of really, really good teachers who have been working together with us to make humane curriculums that are oriented around his program. And we've been bringing them to schools and hospitals for children who have special needs. And the kids have been reacting really amazingly, more so than a lot of people would give them credit for. And it's teaching them, again, if you give them something to believe in, they'll do things that will even surprise themselves. We were invited to go to the St. Catherine Center for Children in Albany because they got a bunch of our comics for Free Comic Book Day. And the social workers found out that independently of talking to them, the children amongst themselves decided that they would get together and overcome their disabilities to learn to read and write so that they could write thank you letters to Piggy. So they invited us to bring Piggy so that he could show the kids that, like, you know, he's real, and he got their letters and things. And so he went there, and it was amazing because the kids were saying things that a lot of the teachers didn't think that they would have the clarity to say. Things like, you know, well, now I've seen everything that he has had to go through, and I've seen how difficult, you know, his recovery is, but if he can do all of that and be happy, then maybe I can too, so I'm going to try harder at school. So, again, like, I think it really works for miracles. You know, so I'm going to go back to mantra now. Like, the interesting thing is, and you're not telling anyone this, right, but like, you went to save one cat, and then you got dragged into this whole big campaign of your own doing, but you saw what was going on, you learned more, you talked to the locals, which is one thing that you're always emphasizing and promoting, and then you figured, hey, I have to do something about it. But you did bring the comics there. I know that because I've seen the footage, and it's adorable, and it's also just amazing to see the comic reach that area. Oh yeah, well, so interestingly enough, like, it's in Indonesia, it's one of the cultures that still eats dogs. So it's a place that is not friendly to starving dogs and pigs. But the people in that place, like, really liked the humane education program, the teachers, the locals, and, you know, you had young teachers who were locals, but still said, like, yeah, let's totally teach this. This is good. Like, you know, like, just like here, younger people are more liberal than the older people, and, like, they say, like, let's teach the kids so they'll have better attitudes when they grow up, and, you know, other people that might not be as open-minded that we might know. And so it was pretty amazing that they were open to this. There was still a lot of pushback. You know, there was still some resistance where some of the more stringent locals were saying, like, you know, why are you teaching our kids to respect dogs? Why are you teaching our kids to respect pigs? We're saying, you're the reason why we're teaching them that. But they were stubborn and headstrong, so you went along with it. And so they actually, even despite that, they invited us back because they wanted more of these materials. And they appreciated that having, again, heroes to look up to and programs where the kids could just learn to see the world more openly and give them more choices other than just working for palm oil plantations, which a lot of them were resigned to doing, or growing up to take wildlife out of the ecosystem because that's often the only ecosystem they had. So we decided that, like, you know, we had to do whatever we could to help those communities turn themselves around. So they're going to do it themselves, and we're just going to help bring the materials that's going to help them do it. And it's all thanks to this dog.